welcome back. My name is Kajol, and if you're new here, I talk about consulting, productivity, personal finance, and I've been in consulting for, drumroll, nearly 5 years now, and I feel old, but I definitely feel like there are definitely things which I had no clue about consulting when I came in. I was a little bit shocked. So this is a video very light-hearted compared to my other dramatic videos that I have. So stay tuned, let's get started. First thing we're going to start with that I got really shocked by, might be really naive of me, but I had no clue that salary changed depending on where you sat in the firm. So if you sat in operations consulting versus, let's say, if you sat in digital consulting, you would be paid differently. And what's even more, the area you sit in within that, so like the business units you sit within that, changes your bonus. So obviously, or not obviously at that time, but depending on how well your business unit did, you got a bigger bonus or a smaller bonus. So often when you join consulting, it's a luck of the draw. You just put into a certain area and you can't really determine this. So I had no clue. I thought the world was fair, that everyone got paid the same, but definitely not the case. And I was really shocked about how some countries pay differently. Like the USA versus the UK, you're paying like 2.5 times more. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe 1.5 to 2 times more. But you're paid a hell of a lot more, and the bonus is hell of a lot more there. So obviously, I am not phased by this, obviously, but yeah, it was a little bit sad when I realized that. Now, the second thing that I was slightly shocked about when I joined consulting, and what I wish I knew, was I didn't know how much people drank and how many socials there were. It was like I was back at university all over again. There were different clubs in terms of teams that you can join, in terms of, let's say, the Hindu Society, the Salsa Society, the Sailing Society, which was great, absolutely amazing. But that means there's like a social every single day with one of these like little teams. There's also could be socials with your team. There's industry socials. There's your op unit socials, and basically there is a social every single day, and at these socials everyone drinks. And when I joined consulting, I really wasn't much of a drinker. Definitely am now. I mean, it's free drinks. I'm not turning that down. But whenever you also go on an away project, you end up just grabbing a drink with your work team after work. And, it does get obviously really unhealthy. And I feel for people who don't drink, because I do feel that sometimes you just bond a little bit more when you have a drink in your hand. And I used to, I'm going to be really honest, I used to put water into a wine glass just because I didn't want to feel left out. And it's quite sad that I had to do that and I had to get to that stage. But I would say this is the time you really bond with your team members and you really get to know them. So don't miss this opportunity. So definitely go to socials. The more you go to, the better. I definitely was very picky, and I regret that now. So definitely go to as many socials as you can. Now, the third one is just a cultural thing, and that's basically you're sitting on your butt 10 to 12 hours a day. You're doing like 10 steps a day because you're not really moving, to be honest. And if you work past 8 p.m, you get free dinners, a free taxi home, so you don't even need to walk to the tube station. And if you're on an away project, you end up having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, obviously outside, and 8 hash browns for breakfast with some beans and some cheese. Honestly, this is why I put a ton of pounds during my consulting years and, definitely my away project years. You're going to have less time to go to the gym because you're working a little bit later. And if you're really disciplined, which I wasn't, you can wake up early in the morning and gym. But you definitely will be putting on some pounds. So you need to understand how to be a little bit more health conscious. And I would definitely say prioritize that from the beginning, because when you don't go to the gym, when you eat a little bit unhealthy, it really does affect your mood and obviously your productivity as well. So make sure that you stay healthy and make some really healthy, conscious decisions, because I definitely didn't, and I still probably don't, and definitely have put on a lot more pounds than I should have. Now, the next one is something which I see people do even before they join consulting. They feel that when you go into consulting, you need to know Excel, you need to know PowerPoint, and that is the case, but they stress so much importance of that. They don't realize that actually your soft skills like leadership, like teamwork, like communication, this is what gets you promoted rather than your Excel and your PowerPoint skills. So soft skills play a greater importance than hard skills. And even when I came into consulting, I thought actually I just need to be really good at my job. I just need to be really good at Excel. That is not the case. I think listening and having empathy and being able to, communicate really well with a client are things which I had to really quickly learn when I joined consulting. And, I really do feel that consulting is less about how well you make pretty slides, but more about how you communicate, how you talk that through with other people. So it's really important that you do spend your time focusing on building some of these softer skills, and they can be hard to learn in a course. You can't really learn it in a course, but the more projects you do, the more you think about the weaknesses you have and identify them and try to improve on them actively in conversations, actively by doing things and putting into practice. That's how you're going to improve. So make sure you focus your time on some soft skills. The next thing is that you do not need to specialize ASAP. Everyone talks about when you go to consulting, you feel like you need to know what sector you want to do, what industry, what type of consulting you want to do. That is not the case. And honestly, I still don't feel that I have really specialized. I'm 5 years in, and I like being a generalist. I like doing a little bit of everything. And I think it's really important because we call this the T-shaped individual. You have a good general skill, a good skill set. And for me, that was by doing projects in strategy, in operations, in tech, in digital, in the innovation and venture space. And that gave me a really broad skill set. But then now I need to learn how to create the T, well, the down bit. And that's by specializing in a couple of certain areas. And for me, I'm feeling it's going to be to do with the consumer area. I feel like it's going to be to do with proposition design and experience and defining customer experiences. So have a think about what potentially you may want to do, but it's not urgent for you to specialize, especially in your first couple of years. So don't feel stressed about that. The next thing which I wish I'd known was that travel is not as glamorous as you think it is, because consulting firms, what they do is they use travel to lure us all in. They say Shanghai, they say Hong Kong, they say Australia, and boom, they're literally reading us in, and I did as well. And often they often have offices in other countries, so it's more likely that someone in that office of that country is going to be staffed on that project rather than you, and more likely that you'll be somewhere in the UK, if you're from the UK, in a parking lot with no windows sometimes. I've definitely had a case like that. And sometimes it's in a city. It really depends. But you're traveling 2 to 3 hours to get there by train, wake up really early in the morning, leave a little bit later. And it can be really tiring away from your loved ones. Only time you end up traveling is when sometimes your client that you're working on, let's say in the UK, has offices in other countries and you need to go to those offices. And that doesn't happen as often as you think it is. So travel is very different in every firm you go to. Like in Deloitte, travel for us is anything in Europe and Middle East if you're part of the UK firm, purely because the UK Deloitte has merged with the Middle East Deloitte. With like MBB, often you can get projects across the world because it's like one firm across the world. But for the rest of the big four companies, like let's say PwC, you're probably not going to be flying out to really nice places all the time. So be aware of that. And something else that's less sexy is also sometimes the work that you're doing. Now, in consulting, they sell us things such as optimized performance, global strategy, work with C-suite individuals. And when you join consulting, I'm telling you, that's not going to be the case. You're not going to be Superman flying around solving big problems. You're probably going to be sitting on a table, sitting on your laptop every day for around 10 hours, working on PowerPoint, formatting slides, trying to churn out maybe some financial models. And it is not going to be the whole holding meetings, leading meetings, the more adrenaline activities, one would say. Most of the work I did was analysis when I joined consulting, but would I have it any other way? No. No pain, no gain. It taught me some incredible skills. And don't forget, the partners at your firm have all gone through this. So you have to go through kind of like the initiation training in a way, I would say it. And no matter how awesome you think you are, do not downplay the really important piece around working on some of these less sexy things, because it gives you the foundational skills you need for consulting. Okay, so let's wrap this up with the last one. And the next thing is that I wish I had an exit plan, and I knew I kind of had planned my career a little bit. People are like, oh no, you're so young, you don't need to plan your career. But I think it is really important to have some loose milestones. Like, what will make you leave consulting? What are the big no-nos? What's going to get you out of this job? And for me, one of the criteria, for instance, is that when I stop learning, I know I need to move. When I'm feeling bored, when I'm feeling comfortable, getting close to that stage, I'm gonna be honest. And that's why I'm nearly 5 years in. And there are definitely times where I look back now at myself, I'm like, oh, I could have left here. He would have been a smart time to leave. So have a think about what it is, really clearly define your criteria, and it's fine to leave whenever. Don't feel like, oh, you need to spend 2 years in a job to leave. You really don't. It doesn't look fickle to move to another job. It's completely fine. Finding a good job is like finding a house, so you definitely want to start a little bit early, and don't forget, it's really important to find something which you feel like you could actually be challenged by and motivated by. So with that, I am going to end this video. I hope you found this useful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Toodles.